Hello, everybody, and welcome to Becoming Invincible podcast. I am your host, Talia, and I am so excited to have you here. This podcast is to reframe your mindset, challenge those limiting beliefs that you may have when you're navigating all the situations in your life. And I'm here to give you tools to help you navigate them in such a healthy way and to harness your personal power that we tend to lose along the way. So settle up, get ready, grab a coffee, and get ready for some juice in each episode as I throw you what life has thrown me and we can navigate this shit together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I hope you're having a beautiful day today. The sun is shining for me, which is so good. I'm going to get stuck into this one because I try not to make this a long episode. This episode I'm going to do is about co-parenting. My partner co-parents, and I don't personally, but he does. And I am coming from a point of view of somebody who comes into a relationship of co-parenting because I don't believe that there's a lot going around, out there in the world about co-parenting in general anyway for people who learn to co-parent, because it is unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, because we all want to have kids with someone who is our person and bring children into the best possible relationship and world. They don't ask to come into a world full of hardships and challenges, right? So this episode is for people who co-parent, who can have an open mind. You try to get a new perspective and an open mind on someone, like if they're wanting to bring someone into their relationship. Also, someone who's thinking about, like, I'm in the dating game and someone's probably going to have a kid because, for me, I'm 32 this year. So, when you start to get a little bit older, generally people have a child, at least one. So it can be really tricky to navigate co-parenting. But also it's a good episode for anyone who's dating, because I can talk on a perspective of obviously my own, but also I have been navigating and helping one of my friends through hers, because she is someone who doesn't have children. She's not been around nieces and nephews. She's never babysat. And she is in a co-parenting relationship that's very successful. And I just really can come from both parties here. And so from multiple different point of views. So I really believe that this episode would be so good for many. But it is a bit of a disclaimer that it will activate you. So people who are new here, activating is what I call triggering. Triggering, I feel like, is quite a demonized word. No one likes that word. I feel like it sounds like kind of evil too. So I say activating because you get a sense of that emotion came up. Being activated, it's because it's something for you to get curious about, like, why is that making me feel that way? Why do I have that perception? I really do believe it's a better word for people to use than triggering. So it will be quite activating for those of you listening because of what I'll be talking about in the episode, but just know that it all comes from an empowering place, because it really does. This episode is quite empowering, and I really want to help people who are thinking about going into a relationship and people who are in a relationship with a co-parent, maybe feeling stuck or whatever, or people who are co-parenting and like, I don't know whether to bring someone in. So this is like from all aspects here. My podcast show is all about empowering. So let's get into it. I'll start with your challenge. So me and my partner have been together for over a year. So it's still new, and we have 4 kids together, right? So he's got 2 and I've got 2. And personally, I don't co-parent. So the person I had kids with, he'd never wanted to be in the girls' lives, which is like kind of like a blessing because I don't actually know who that person is. My kids don't go to their dad on the weekend. They're with me full time. It's only like days like this that I get to have a day where they're both at school, and that happens every second Wednesday. I wouldn't know what it's like to co-parent. So my heart absolutely goes out for you. It really does. I can't imagine how hard that is because I see my partner struggle sometimes, and it is hard because there's only so much I can say or do to help him. And you don't want to feel like you're overstepping. I feel like that's the really hard part about someone who's coming into a co-parenting situation, right? So you have the people who are co-parenting, and then you have this new person. And it can get really daunting because you can't say too much because you're the outer person. You're still trying to learn the new person you're getting to know whilst they're navigating co-parenting, right? So for me and my partner, he was newly co-parenting with his ex, and they had only been co-parenting for probably like a year. So it was still so new. he's someone that has not ever felt confident in himself with trying to put boundaries down. It would always be her way or the highway. And that was quite activating for me because I'm all about someone who is fair. I'm like, we're going by what is fair and not by because you have your ego running the show and you want, right? I'm very like that. It's all about the kids at the end of the day. So we have to always remind ourselves that it's all about the kids come first in co-parenting relationship, right? It is hard for the co-parent trying to navigate their own shit and like navigate their child together. And also it's hard for us coming into this relationship, especially when their boundaries haven't really been made. So there was something that happened, like obviously when I talk about this episode, I'm not going to dive into everything that happened in our life, right? That there is a privacy thing. But I'm going to try and explain things the best that I can, okay? So, there was an incident that happened with me and him. He had his kids for Easter and there was like a thing that he was doing with his ex, right? And it's all about the kids and things like that. Now, I struggled with that so hard because although I had like such an open understanding on what he had been through, because we've both come out of a toxic relationship, coming into like a healthy relationship in general. So I have 2 episodes in my podcast show, what people don't tell you about a healthy relationship. And then the other one is dating after a toxic relationship. They're 2 episodes that are really good listen because I say a lot of stuff in there. So it's hard. No one ever tells you that, but it's hard generally on a good day with no kids. So it's going to be harder and a lot more pressured when there is kids involved and you're experiencing someone new. Although we're trying to get to know each other and it had only been a few months, so it's like your relationship is so new, yet you're trying to understand and bite your tongue with things that are happening. And so a situation happened. It's like, okay, cool, no worries. Like, I understand that. But also I felt pretty overridden in my feeling. Men are very logical and women are emotional. So what us as women need to always try to remind ourselves is that feelings are not facts. And that's really hard and it's been such a big navigation for me. And that's why I also talk about this, right? So feelings aren't facts. However we're feeling towards a situation isn't fact on what is going on, all right? We have to always really try. So for guys listening, like we need to lean on you for the logic side of things. But sometimes you guys can be too logic that you don't understand our emotion, which I completely understand. So I'm not shaming anyone here. This is why us all as a collective in the world, we need to get better at communicating and understanding each other because a woman's feelings is very valid, just like a man's feeling. We try to come from logic and it will never be the same sort of logic like a man because we're not built that way. We're not wired that way. So for a man to understand emotion, it's really hard for them. It was really hard for him to understand because I got emotional to the fact that I haven't come from a walk in the park either. And it was really hard when he wasn't understanding that. You act like I've not had a hard time. You act like I haven't come out of a toxic relationship. And that's really hard. And because we're so new together, we're trying to learn each other. And then to have something, sort of happen, it was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so we're trying to navigate, like he was doing something with his ex with the kids. And I get it was all for the kids. But when things like this happen, guys, I really want you to understand that we need to put ourselves in a child's point of view, okay? So my partner now isn't the first guy my children have been exposed to. There was 2 men that came into my life after everything went down with the person I had kids with. It was nothing serious. 2 men come into my life and they were from my past. They were so young anyway to remember them, but they got a feel for what it was like to have like a man kind of thing. So my children are more likely to latch onto a guy than what his children are to latch onto me because his children have both parents in their life, whereas my kids don't. They only have one, which is me. They struggle with like who the hell is dad, and I have to try and tell them that they kind of don't have one, right, in the best, obviously, age-appropriate way. And so when we can kind of come from like an aspect where you need to put yourself in your child's shoes, it's like the best that you could do for them. And so when people sort of do things with like oh yeah, it's for the kids and we're just doing something together as a family and you're not included, right? One, there's a divide in your relationship now with that new person because it's like, what the fuck? And if that new person is a woman, we're more likely to go into stories like, he still loves her, I'm irrelevant, I feel so disrespected. All those sort of things is generally what a woman's going to feel and think. But for a man, I'm sure it's probably different. But I'm sure you'd have somewhat of an equal feeling towards that if like your new partner was doing something with her ex-husband or whatever, you know what I mean? So it can be really hard. When we can put ourselves in the child's point of view here though, so the child, or children I should say, they're going to feel like mum and dad are getting back together because a child's brain isn't completely developed until at least like 20. They don't have an adult brain. That's why when people are like, oh my God, my 16-year-old should know better, like, because they technically should, right? But they don't, because they're always going to still make a mistake because they're doing and feeling. So a child's brain is always going to be doing and feeling until like it's about 20 or something. It's different for men and women, but it's about roughly 20, right? And that's when their adult brain starts to like get built in and starts to get activated. Because children are doing and feeling, they don't actually think yet like an adult, right? I'm all talking from like a basis standpoint here. So children are always feeling and doing until they actually have their adult brain form, depending on how old they are, to obviously how open you are with your children. They're gonna think, oh, mum and dad are getting back together, because that's what a child will always want. Biologically, always will want their mum and dad together because it's very generic anyway. It's all in the movie. There's a mum, dad, and 2 kids or whatever. So anything outside of that, it's foreign to them, and it's for us to help them like understand. When you're doing things without your new partner and with your ex, you're putting your relationship at harm because they're trying to get to know you, depending on their past and like everything like that as well. And also your children, even though you're like, oh, kids, it's for the kids to get along, but they're going to be thinking, oh, mum and dad are getting back together, because no child will ever want a random person to come into that, because that's just so foreign. They don't know you. As a new person coming in, they don't know us, right? You've got to go into the relationship too that the children are not going to like you for a while. My partner's kids don't like me. They obviously tolerate me when I see them and stuff and spend time with them, but they don't like me. They would never ever be able to say to their parents, oh, I like Talia, because I only see them every so often. Trust is built, and depending on what's happened in their past and things like that, like, you know what I mean? Some kids warm up easy and others don't. So you've got to sort of go into it like, okay, well, I'm going to do the best that I can, and they will just eventually come around, because that does happen where kids like don't like the new person because you're foreign, they don't know you, they don't feel safe with you, they're thinking that you're breaking up their family, whatever it is, because a child will always have a different perception to what an adult will. If we can put boundaries in and keep things separate, I really feel like it would just save everyone so much. I think when we can kind of put ourselves in their shoes on how they're going to see things, I think it really makes it different. How is your child going to see this situation? We have a random person, or like there must be just a friend who kisses my dad or my mum sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, children just make up so many things because they're learning from us. It's monkey see, monkey do. So it can be really challenging. Also, with just like our past in general, like that can be very challenging. Like, trust has been such a big thing for me, to trust my new partner, because my trust has been so broken. And it was really hard because he had lack of boundaries with co-parenting at the start. It made it really hard for me to trust him, because I'm like, you're doing things that I'm trying to have an open mind. I'm trying to trust you. Because he's a man, he's not understanding the emotional side. He's not understanding. I'm trying so hard to not get so upset about it. I'm really trying to go, okay, we're going to breathe in these emotions that I'm feeling. I feel so activated right now. I was thankful that I was working with a coach at that time, because no matter what, when you come into a relationship, whether it's with kids or without, your relationship is going to activate you, especially when it's a healthy one. You've both lived a different life, because he didn't really understand how I could be even feeling. Like, to him, he's like, I would never get back with my ex. But to me, what he was doing looked like he wanted that. So as much as he was telling me, oh no, like there's nothing there, it's like, yeah, but your actions are showing me different. And you're saying, oh yeah, it's for the kids, which he generally was, thinking that way and everything. And this is the thing. This is really trying to be open-minded with people too, guys, like really be open-minded. And I know it's really hard this day and age. It is, because we've all been hurt. Everyone wants to have a pity party in themselves, be like, I've been hurt the most, blah, 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 and all the things. But you have to take that out of it. You have to try and trust. You have to try to just be open. My past wasn't that great. So the reason why I came out of a toxic relationship is the fact that everything in that relationship was so made up, from things that were shown to me to things that were said to me. He would say things and act completely different. There was a lot of a bit of manipulation there, and he was never around. He didn't really give a shit. I ended up finding out he was cheating on me the whole time. And then it was a lot because it escalated. It came out in the news and there was all sorts of going on. So it was such a big thing. And I wasn't trying to be like, oh my God, I've been through worse. But because of how my partner was acting at the time, and he's the first person I really gave it a shot with after. Whereas the other two guys, they were just in my life and I was just sort of navigating my own shit. And it just didn't work out for those sort of reasons. So it wasn't really anything serious. Whereas this, I was so intentional when I went on the apps of dating and being like, no, I actually want someone who's in life with me. And so it became such higher stakes because that's my trust and that's my time and my kids' time and my kids' trust, right? And so it's something bigger than you when it's with kids involved. And so he was trying to navigate the situation the best that he knew how, and I was doing my best with what I knew how, but it was to him, he was like, why are you being so emotional about it? And it's like, you know what? I haven't had a walk in the park either. Do you even remember? You're not the only person that has experienced turmoil. And that was really hard for us, to really navigate all the time, because then things that I would do would activate him. And he would be like, what the hell? I would really encourage you guys to also think, to have conversations, whether you have kids or not, to ask the person, what was your fight style in your last relationship? And what was the repair? When you ask about the fight style and the repair, you can shift things differently, right? Because there is certain things I cannot say to my partner because they don't mean anything, because they were used against him, and all those sort of things. So I've got to be more creative on how I apologize. I've got to be more creative on how I speak to him. Or if I want him to understand something, I've got to be more creative on how he can view it. I've got to try and take as much emotion out of what I'm asking of him or what I need him to understand, but also reiterate it in a way that he's going to understand it. And this is such a bigger part of communication that everyone doesn't understand. It's really about getting to know your partner properly, because you don't want to sail through life with kids and live a basic life with a person who just wants to settle for you. I believe that a relationship is about choosing that person every day. You want to experience the most joy and happiness of your life. Well, how are you when shit hits the fan? That tells me everything. When I lost my dad and I went through a lot of shit, I had so many friends leave because I found out they weren't actually along for the hard times or only along for the joyous times. And so it's the same thing. You don't want a partner in crime who's only going to be there to clap you when you're winning. You want someone to clap for you even when it doesn't look like that you're winning right now. You want someone to be there for you when shit hits the fan. You're not doing so hot. Okay, how can I make you feel better? Or how can I support you the best? What do you need from me? All those sort of things that no one really gives a shit to care about. And I really believe that we all need to take a step back and start caring. I'm very honest in this episode, I know, but we've got to understand where the other person's coming from, what they have endured, what was your fight style like, and how did you repair? Okay, to then what was your relationship dynamic like in general? My partner struggles so hard when I want to help him out with the dishes, because again, that was used against him. Because it's so easy to be like, you just sit on your fucking ass and I have to do everything. That's a typical man and woman fight. You work all day and you come home and you don't even want to help me with the kids. You sit there and you just want to drink a beer and watch TV, and I'm slaving away doing everything. Typical fights. But to get out of that Groundhog Day of doing that is asking these provoking questions. And yes, it's hard. This is why it's like, you want to have the greatest love of your life? Have hard conversations, because how do you know that your relationship is going to withstand the test of time, right? If you don't endure hardship. When things are growing great and people like to say, oh, you're in your honeymoon phase of your relationship, I don't buy into that. I believe that the honeymoon phase will never fade if you love each other properly and you choose each other every day. I don't believe that it fades. I've been with my partner for over a year, and I still get the same amount of rush and butterflies like I did from day one. And it's been over a year now. Generally, that is meant to fade, right? Am I correct? Because people like to tell me that all the time. Oh, it's going to fade now. It's about now it fades. And I'm like, oh, okay. But it doesn't. I still want him as much as I did, even if not more, actually, because I get to know him more. But I believe that it never fades if you keep working on it. Right? How can you apologize better? It's so easy for people just to say sorry and not mean it. There's all these different milestones that you yet have to overcome that are going to be challenging, that you want to know how you guys are together now so you understand what your whole relationship's going to be like. Because you don't know what that person's going to be like when you lose a parent. I was with someone for 6 years and it felt like he turned on me. This is what I mean. Like, you need to have hard conversations, and if you're not willing to do that, then you're not committed to the person enough. And I know that's a hard truth. I encourage for the men listening, to even ask more questions too, because women communicate through talking. Okay, and this is why men are like, oh, shut up, you talk so much, blah, blah, blah. The reason why we talk so much is because it actually boosts our oxytocin, which is our happy hormone in our body. And that's why venting to a girlfriend, being like, oh my gosh, I just need to get all that off my chest, thank you so much. It really helps us because we're wired as women to know attention to detail. So we know the berry has to come from this lake, not with this color, so we could alert the tribe which berries to pick and which not, which were going to kill us and which weren't. Whereas men, again, it comes into their singular focus, right? They went out and speared the lion. They were in hunter-gathering days, right? It literally stems from that. So we can understand that women are quite complex because our brain is. We're wired to know so much detail. That's why, fast forward to nowadays, women can technically do it all. It doesn't mean that we should have to, because we're not wired to have that amount of pressure, and that's why we burn out so quickly than what men do. Because men are they're meant to feel the pressure and be the provider because they're wired to handle it. Doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you guys. I'm not saying that. It 100% does. And this is why, as women, we've got to support our men as well, because they can burn out, but they are wired to feel the pressure and have that endurance, whereas we're not. So when it's when women are talking so much, it helps us in our oxytocin, our happy hormone. It's good when you guys want to ask provoking questions for us, because it shows that you care. Because a lot of the time we have all been in relationships where people are just happy for surface, happy to settle, and no man will ask a woman questions. Obviously, for your past reasons, I completely understand that. I'm all for equality of men and women being together and understanding each other, okay? When you ask a woman questions, it makes us feel like, oh, he's interested, he wants to get to know us, because then that's going to help you a lot more understand who you are actually in a relationship with. Instead of being like, oh my God, she just blows up at me and she nags me all the time. Sometimes there's a reason for the nagging, and we've got to be both open-minded to see it. But for the women listening, we're the ones that open the man's mind. So voicing our boundaries, because when me and my partner started, there wasn't really many boundaries, and she knows what he's like, and they've had a past, and she could pull strings and make him feel bad. And because an outsider coming in can see a lot more than the two people who are actually co-parenting. And because there was lack of boundaries in that, it was really hard, because then it was overriding my boundaries and what I placed down for a relationship. So I had to really question a lot whether it's well, this is what's it's gonna be like forever. Can you handle this? Don't be afraid if you're in a co-parenting relationship, or if you're a co-parenting being like, holy shit, my partner questions a lot. It's normal, because you're trying to understand a new situation. You're trying to understand your resilience as the person coming into it. How much can I handle? Is this person trying to see my point of view? Because again, we all navigate life so differently, right? And it was no shame on my partner. He doesn't understand. I was understanding that things weren't fair. And because I'm a very fair person, it was really activating for me because I'm like, this isn't fair. What the actual is going on? I believe that's how you know also when someone's like really serious on you because they care for you. I could have easily been like, I don't care, whatever. Yeah, okay, that sounds good, and have lack of boundaries and like let the whole thing just go with the flow. I'm definitely a go with the flow person, but like not when it comes to overriding my boundaries. And so it came close a lot of the time. So I had to try and be creative on how to voice them to him and voice like how we can work things out. And my partner actually navigates 2 co-parents. So he's got 3 women in his life. So it would be really stressful, right? Just trying to understand the whole situation and that having boundaries doesn't make you a shitty person or strict or anything. I really feel like it shows a lot of self-respect for yourself. And having those boundaries, then you're either going to help the other person understand or it's going to push the other person away, right? I really believe, again, it comes down to the commitment you two have for each other. You're not crazy when you're thinking like, oh my gosh, can I do this? You're not crazy when you're thinking, I feel so disrespected, or this is really hard. How can I get through this? They're all normal human emotions because it is hard. Being in a relationship with one-on-one and having kids is hard anyway, let alone being a step parent essentially, and then them navigating a co-parent. Because also for us as outsiders, we've got to put ourselves in their shoes who are trying to co-parent with another person or with other people. And it can be really hard and put a lot of pressure on that person because then he's got to try and filter out your needs too. And it took him a little bit to sort of try to prioritize me as well in it all. Like it does take a lot of navigating. So there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes I just feel like his co-parent would just be unfair and she would use their child against him. And I just don't condone that. And I was like, this is so hard. So sometimes I would have to reiterate, okay, well, how would your child think in this situation? Like, what would this be sending to her? And when I said things like that, it really woke him up. Like, okay, I didn't even think of thinking like that. And so this is where your relationship also is quite expansive. So your partner is going to come with a perception, and we can actually learn from our partner if we let them and be like, oh, okay, I did not even see that. So when you're more receptive to your partner, you're able to understand where they're coming from. I can understand how that looks. We can, again, it's about being open-minded, both parties here. It's not just about one person having to give it all and do it all and all those things, right? Don't be afraid to voice your boundaries. Same with the co-parent. If you're co-parenting and you're welcoming a new person, don't be afraid to be like, hey, you're overstepping. And I know it's kind of like, oh my gosh, Charles, but we've also got to take into consideration of like the kids in their past and their relationship with their mum and dad, right? And obviously you then end up meeting the co-parents. Like for my partner, he has 2. So I've met both. It's hard because you know that they've had a past before you, obviously, right? That's like typical chick feelings, I guess. But yeah, it was really hard. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys loved each other once. And it's kind of like that in your face reminder of that. I'm not gonna lie. Whereas like my partner doesn't have that. He doesn't have me co-parenting. And sometimes like I used to always think like he just has it so good. Like I don't have this other person that he's got to navigate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so silly, some things that we tell ourselves, honestly. But it's also about understanding that your new partner is still a priority and is trying to do the best that you can with the open communication for letting them understand that they're still a priority in your life. It's about trying to actionize that your new partner is a priority and you care about them, because again, we can say a lot of stuff, but if your actions aren't lining up, it's really hard for people to trust you. So I really started to lean back and like do me a lot more, focus on my life and be like, okay, well, I'll just navigate this when we can. We'll hang out together with the kids and, you know, see what happens. And I decided to not get so invested in what was happening outside because it takes a toll on you. And I used to get really annoyed and I would want to punch stuff. And when things aren't meant to be a problem, and I used to say to myself, why is that even an issue? And I can't understand when people would create an issue out of a non-issue. Just to have drama because they get off on the dopamine hit, that's been really hard. That's why when people bitch, it actually gives us a dopamine high. So sometimes when you're around people and that's all they want to do, they're getting constantly getting the dopamine hit of bitching about that person. And I personally just don't like to be around those people. I'm just like, okay, well, if you're saying that about that person, I'd hate for you to what you're going to say about me. And so I just never condone myself with people who do that. When I vent, it's different because I'm not bitching about the person. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed with this and this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. I just want it to stop. That's my venting. I don't sit there and go, oh my God, did you hear that this person did this? I can't believe them. Oh, they're ridiculous. There's a very vast difference between getting things off your chest and actually bitching about someone. No matter what, it's you two against the world. I think that's a really good reminder to have, because it's so easy in these situations when kids are involved and you're trying to do right by the kids, that it's so easy to fling new people out and push them out. It's so easy to be in your own box and have your own perception and not trust in someone else. And it's so easy for you to turn on each other as well, really easy. There has been points in my relationship where there's been friends that are just like, oh, you know what, I would just leave. That is ridiculous, because they get very protective of you. And it's sometimes things that you don't need to hear, because you're trying to navigate this new thing, and it's really hard when everyone's telling you something and all you need to be told sometimes is that, you know what, you're going to be okay and we'll try and navigate this the best that we can. Sometimes that's literally all you need to hear. And it's hard when everyone wants to consume you with their opinion, and then you're like, oh my God, is this a sign that I'm not seeing? Especially if you've been hurt in the past. I question a lot about myself, where I'm like, oh my gosh, am I not seeing this red flag as such, right? Because everyone else is making it out to be like that. So it's really hard, and it's just about trying to trust yourself. That's the big thing, is about trusting yourself and understanding that, you know what, you've been through hell in your life, so you will know if you're walking into a situation like that. You've got to have that self-trust in yourself, right? It's about trying to be open and understanding, especially when the world wants to tell you not to and people around you. That can be really hard. I even have an episode on that. It's hard to be open, but you've got to understand that we've all lived a life and we're not going to get it right all the time. I really believe that in a relationship, it's about having open understanding that not everything is black and white. We're going to say things that you're not going to like to hear. Not in mean ways, just say a comment and it's meant to land in a different way than it did, because the person receiving a comment can take something so differently to how you're meaning it. And that can be really hard too. Most of my relationship is actually a distance relationship. We see each other on the weekend and then we have a date night in the week, and that's it. Which is more than most, because obviously people that live together and that. But it's it is hard being away from each other, not living together, to tell each other about our day. So sometimes when we're too tired, we don't talk about our day. And then if something happened and then the week keep going on, my partner will be like, why the hell are you so upset? Or why the hell has this bothered you so much? And it's because I forgot to tell him about my day, or I forgot to tell him about something that happened in the week, for him to understand, oh shit, no wonder why I should be going off about that. But then when I get upset, he retreats back to his past, being like, holy crap, this is the shoe that's going to drop. Knew there was something wrong with her. A lot of us have that perception because we've all been hurt. And when really it's we're all going to be a human, and we're going to say the wrong thing and do the wrong thing and not act accordingly to how you want us to act. And that's okay. It's about acceptance. It's about open-minded, taking consideration what they've been through and what you've been through, laying down boundaries, so many things. So just healthy ways to get through and navigating your co-parenting relationship, guys, is literally communication and being so open. And I even really believe that telling each other even the pointless stuff, because you get in the habit of telling them everything. Because when I came into my relationship, he wanted me to tell him about my day. And I'm like, yeah, but why are you going to care? Because in my 6-year relationship, and then obviously with the person I had kids with, they didn't give a shit about my day. I never really talked to them about my day. They didn't really care. Never asked. It was never a thing. I was like, why would you care about my day? Who cares? When really, when you don't express everything, some things can get left unsaid, and when they do, they can sort of niggle at us. And then if like they're not dealt with or even talked about, they can, over time, that can build into resentment. And you don't want to build resentment in your relationship, because when that happens, it's really hard to salvage your relationship, because it's going to require a lot more work to get rid of that resentment. I really believe that it's about talking to each other about your days, and even if you feel like it's pointless, it's not. And talking about things in private as well, like when people aren't around, because your two thought process is trying to understand each other. And when you do it in front of people, it's so easy for people to have a bad judgment of you, right? Like, I do know that I get a bad rap being online. Some people are just like, oh my gosh, she is so in victimhood, and they think I'm trying to be like, poor me. And then other people that completely understand what I'm about. But that's all part about being online, right? Understanding that you have to be okay to be misunderstood to others sometimes. But the most important is trying to understand each other and having each other's backs. That's really going to help you guys. So that is pretty much everything on co-parenting. I really don't have any more to say about it. I just think there's a lot that's going to come up for you guys, and I think it's so normal for that to happen. It's normal to have activations, and it's just about navigating it. And when you can understand, like, oh, that makes sense why she's feeling that way. That makes sense why he's feeling that way or perceiving that way. I really believe that is going to help you. But again, to go back to it, like, you need to understand what was the fight style in the past relationship and what was the mend. Like, how did you guys repair? And even like, obviously just prompting like other questions, like, how was that relationship dynamic? What was it like when you told each other things? Even help you with like, what was your sex life like? Because again, that's going to help too. But I hope this episode helps you guys. Share with someone who needs it, and I really hope that this has helped. I might even do like a questionnaire box and do another one a little bit later down the track and see if anyone wants me to answer anything, or even like on a live on my Instagram. But I will talk to you guys in another episode. Definitely send this to someone who needs it. Listen to this again, because there's so many things that probably are over your head and there's so much to consider. But honestly, guys, no matter what, as long as you choose each other and you're committed, you're going to be fine. All right, guys, I'll talk to you on another episode. Enjoy the rest of your day.